Hi, guys. We are live here on the MMA Toehold podcast. I'm your host, Dave, and we're here to break down UFC Vegas 11 Covington versus Woodley. I just wanted to get some quick content out there for us, our DFI subscribers, as it's a big slate. We haven't had a good sized card in a while. We got 14 fights, and I just kind of want to give you kind of my quick thoughts and the slate, how we kind of how to approach it, and we'll go from there. Starting in like the 9K range, you have Mirsad Bektic at the top at 9,500. After that, you got Chimaev at 94, Covington at 93. Then you have TJ Laramie at 92. 91, I believe, is Kevin Holland. And at 9,000, you got Silva. I'm sorry I'm doing this for my card. I'm sorry if there's bad audio, but I just really, really wanted to get something out. On the road for part of today, and Ryan's got you covered. So this might not technically jive with everything in the war room. Me and Ryan kind of did a little bit talking beforehand, but Ryan's taking care of this slate. So if it doesn't jive, take it with a grain of salt. But this is just my personal thoughts, nothing to do with Ryan for the most part. But in that 9K range, Colby Covington is the obvious to me. He pushes such a high pace with his wrestling. He throws a good amount of strikes. And he's also got 5 rounds to work with. So he's more than likely going to be the highest owned fighter on the slate. I mean, he's got the reason to. The only way Woodley, who he's facing, is going to win this fight is if he lands that knockout punch in the first or second round. If he doesn't land it in that first or second round, he is more than likely just going to get wrestle fucked for 5 rounds. And Colby puts on a pace. Once he gets you down, he's not just laying on you. He's throwing vicious ground and pound. He is, advancing. He is nonstop, and he's not the type that typically lets you up easy. So he's gonna put in the work. He's my favorite play of the slate. He's gonna be super chalky, but he's chalk for a reason. He's gonna probably score north of 100 points easily. Then the 1B on this slate, I would say like Covington's 1A. 1B is Chimaev. He's a very similar fighter to Colby. The main difference is he's semi-unproven. Yes, he's got 2 wins in the UFC, but both of the guys he's fought, one guy, once he gets on his back, he can't literally do anything. And that's why he was able to destroy his first opponent. I can't think of the names off the top of my head. And then his second opponent was moving up to 170, where Chimaev moved down from 185 to fight him. So the size difference was just too much. And that was his first, I would say, semi-competition, where you got Gerald Meachard, he's a black belt. He's got some, good, ground skills, but he's also, not the greatest fighter. On the feet, Chimaev should have an advantage. But, on the ground, it could get a little, iffy at times, but I still think Chimaev's ground pressure is going to be too much. He's going to throw a lot of ground and pound. He's going to make him pay. Chimaev should get a finish, but he might not. But either way, he's going to score very highly. I like him a lot in the slate. And pairing Covington and Chimaev together is probably going to be the most popular build on this slate. So if you want to get away from that, Silva is someone who me and Ryan talked about, and we like as kind of like an edge play, because I think in this 9K range, he probably will be one of the lowest owned. Maybe Bektic might be lower owned just because Bektic's 9,500. But Silva has power in her hands, and she's taken on Morella Bello, whatever how you say her name, who's been knocked out, I think, 5 times in her UFC career. So, so I like Silva to potentially get a knockout win. Could come in the first, could come in the second, but with her volume, her pace, I still think that Silva's a very good pivot off that, and you're going to get some super low ownership in that range. But the other play I like in that range a lot too is TJ Laramie. He's coming off the Dana White Contender Series. He's 22 years old. On the feet, he's a very good striker, but his bread and butter is his wrestling. And he's just basically got to watch out in the first round, because Derek Minner, he's a guy who looks, goes for basically broke in the first round. He's going to try to get the submission. If he doesn't get it, he's going to likely gas out, and then he's going to get finished. Pretty much all of his losses, Minner's losses, have been by a finish. I think he's got 6 by a sub. He's got another 3 or 4 by TKO. And I like Team AJ Laramie a lot because, with the wrestling too. So he could be a person who I think could probably score highly as Chimaev, because I think Minishard might get, be able to defend some takedowns for a little bit because he knows that's what Chimaev's going to do and defend them, where I think Minner is going to allow the takedowns, and that's where, Laramie will prevail. And on the ground, Laramie's very slick. He's got a bunch of submissions. He's got the ground and pound. I just like him wherever he goes. I think he's in that division. He's going to be undersized. Like, he's very short and stocky. So, later on in his career, he might be troublesome with his, the height and reach disadvantages that he'll have. But in this fight, I like him a lot. He's one of my, pivots off of Chimaev. And then you got Kevin Holland and Mirsad Bektic. I like Bektic slightly more than Holland because I think Bektic's path to getting a finish is greater. He's taking on a guy who's taking this fight on a ball of like 2 days, 3 days notice. So who knows what kind of training he's got in. His opponent, I'm blanking on his name right now because I'm just focused on the road. I believe all three of his losses have been via finish. But at the same time, too, Bektic is a hard guy to trust. So I wouldn't put this as like a tier one or, I'm forcing into my lineup in a single entry. If I'm going multi-entry, then I would probably start sprinkling maybe a little bit of Bektic. And then Kevin Holland, he's in a great spot. But at the same time, too, Darren Stewart is a guy that could end up just taking Holland down and grinding him. And Holland is one of those people who doesn't mind like sitting there waiting for his opportunity to get a submission or break loose. And he could end up losing a round or losing valuable time to rack up points that he needs. And I just think, he's probably my least option out of there. But I think Holland, because of how he's performed in his last couple of fights, is going to garner some good ownership. So I think this is a way to pivot off of him, not pivot off him, but just avoid him as you don't need him. And, I don't think he's definitely worth rostering because he can get a submission. He can get that knockout early and he can put up a ton of points, but he's also not the smartest in the ring. I would just not, he's like Bektic. I would just kind of use him as a second option of multi-entering and just go with it at that. The next kind of couple fighters I believe you got Rose Clark. She's 8,900. She's a complete fade overall. I slightly favor her to win this fight, but at 8.9K, that's just way, way too much. And she's not going to, in a win, she's not going to pay off that. And it's not even worth playing as cash because there's just other options. So I would just completely avoid her altogether. And then you got Andre Ewell at 8.8K. I like him as a cash play if you want to go cash. This slate overall, I wouldn't go. It's not really a cash slate. But if you're playing cash, he's not a bad guy to throw in there. He's going to have a huge reach advantage. I believe it's like 7 or 8 inches in reach. He's just gonna pick Rivera apart at distance, and I like him. His volume's there enough, but it's not great. But yeah, I would, these two fighters, I would just kind of say for GPP, just completely fade them. Don't even bother putting them in lineup because I just don't see them with the upside that a lot of other fighters to have. Next fighter up, I believe, is Mackenzie Dern. I think she is 8'7" or 8'6". I can't remember off the top of my head. I would say, to me, she's a secondary GPP play. She does have the upside to get that finish. And, if she gets the fight to the mat, she probably is going to get a finish. That's all it takes. But her takedown offense is just terrible. She only gets down at 7%. And if you watch a lot of her fights, she's a lot of times losing the fight until she gets that takedown or her opponent, for some reason, decides to pull guard. I don't know. And that's when she ends up getting those submission wins. So I honestly, she has the upside, but she also, if she doesn't get a win or if it goes to decision, I don't see her scoring very highly. So, she is a very boomer bust play, but I'm not super high on her. I'm kind of going towards the Marcos route anyway, or, would play as Marcos, alternates wins and losses. If you look at the girl she's faced pretty much the best of the best in the division. She doesn't face shitty competition. And I think she's smart enough to know I'm not going to try to take down Dern. and I'm not going to let Dern take me down. So I'm going to keep the standing. And, Marcos is the better striker. So I just see this fight as a whole. Just one, Marcos would be the play if you're looking at someone in that lower. I think she is 7,500, 7,400, somewhere in that range. So she's someone that you could use, but there's just no upside with her. She's not going to get a finish. So, again, it's just Marcos's value is mostly just if you're looking for someone who could get a win, who's, hopefully can survive 2 rounds, put up okay volume and get you some points. But either way, it's not a fighter I'm looking to target. Next fight, I think, is Tyson Nam. He's a bit kind of like Mackenzie Dern. He's either going to get a finish, which is likely going to come in that first or second round, or he's not going to win the decision. Like, his volume is so low. I think he throws 2 strikes a minute. And, so and then he's got his opponent Rivera on the other hand. If he's going to win this fight, he's got to get the takedowns. That's what he's going to look to do. Take Nam down. But Nam's got very good takedown defense, and I'm not going to really target Rivera too much. Maybe a little bit here or there, but for the most part, Nam is very boom or bust. I'm not super high on it. I mean, I could end up seeing this go to decision, and Rivera's output could end up being just enough to squeak out a decision win, or if he gets some takedowns. But yeah, I mean, basically you're taking Nam for that big finish, which is great for GPP, but I'm not. I see other fights I'm looking to target in general. Who else we got next week? I believe it's Johnny Walker at 90. Or no, is it Johnny Walker? We'll just talk about Johnny Walker versus Ryan Spann. This is a fight you're going to want to target one fight or another. Johnny Walker is a very flashy guy. Comes out, throwing spinning backfish, flying knees, but his technical striking is not very good. If you saw him versus Corey Anderson's not by no means a knockout artist, but he was able just to throw a straight right down the middle and knock out what's called Walker. And that's where, I think Spann's going to have that's where he's going to have the advantage. He's got a better technical striking. If the fight goes to the mat, I prefer Spann a lot. He's got some good guillotines. And that's, I think, but the problem with Spann is he's very slow. He's very flat-footed. And that's where I could see Walker catching him early. The longer this fight goes, the more I favor Spann. Not a ton, but I think Spann's cardio is better. He doesn't expend as much when he's trying to do any takedowns or striking, where you got Walker who's just throwing crazy shit. So, both have high upside. Inside a round and a half. So if you're betting this, I would bet the inside 1.5. But right now, I slightly favor Spann. I think he has more paths to victory, whether it's submission or the knockout. But it's a slight lean. It's nothing that I'm saying, I'm going 70% on. It's going to be like a 55-45, 60-40 split. But you definitely want exposure to both this side. Who else you got in that mid-range? You got Dvorak versus Espinoza. Not a fight I would say you want to go crazy targeting, but with the way builds are going with all those guys in the 9K range that you want to get in your lineup, this is somehow, it seems like this is the fight where your last spot just kind of fits. And I know Ryan, I think into it, I was more Dvorak as well, because he's got the upside. If he gets the win, it's probably going to be via knockout or just better, landing to better punches. But Espinoza looked very good in his last fight against Mark Della Rosa. I want to say he landed over 100 significant strikes. He was quick. I mean, he's probably the quickest fighter in his division. He was quick at darting in and out, landing strikes. He can mix in some wrestling, but I don't think he's going to be able to. Dvorak's got some pretty good, solid takedown defense. He's a very big dude and strong dude. But this is another fight. It's going to be super close. I think right now it's a pick-em fight. I slightly favor Dvorak, but, if you need to fit Espinoza in at 8,000, he could rack up that volume. You might be able to mix in a takedown or two. And, it's going to be a super close fight. I don't see it. I mean, if the only person I see getting a finish is going to be Dvorak, I think he could possibly submit Espinoza. Espinoza's been submitted. You know, um, yeah, I can't look at my screen to see what other fights I'm missing. I know I'm missing another fight off the top of my head. Who is it? Oh, you got Donald Cerrone versus Nico Price. He's 8,500, and Donald Cerrone 7,700. Another fight I've kind of gone back and forth on. I mean, if Donald Cerrone had a chin, I would easily favor Donald Cerrone in this fight. But at Cerrone's age, he's slowing down. He's his chin's just going, and it's just hard to trust him at this point. But then you got Nico Price, who a lot of times is losing fights, but then he just has that death touch where he can submit you with a few seconds left in the third round or knock you out from the bottom. He's just got like that knockout or finish ability. He just has a knack for it. I mean, he finally in his last fight, a couple of fights, has been showing a higher output, which I like because for Donald Cerrone, that's what he struggles a little bit with is guys who are super high volume. And right now I think I was originally kind of going Donald Cerrone. I mean, but I think right now I'm slightly going back to Nico Price. I think Nico is going to land out one strike. He just looked so good on the scale too. He was jacked beyond belief. And I think Nico's going to get that, finish probably in the first round, maybe early second round. But Donald Cerrone's path, he could knock, Nico. Nico's been knocked out before, and Nico's also been submitted. But I think if Donald Cerrone wants to fight a smart fight, he takes down Nico, grounds him up, works him on top, and eventually gets an armbar or a triangle or something to finish him and gets a submission victory if that's what he wants. But Cerrone's going to be super popular owned because any fighters in that 7.7 to 7 to 8K are going to be the popular underdog plays. Anything below that, most of those fighters they don't score very well in decision or in victory, or they're very boom or bust. So we'll talk about that. We kind of talked about Spann. I kind of like Spann at 7.9. We talked about Espinoza. He's 8,000. Who else is in that range? Donald Cerrone 7.7. He's going to be very popular. I know I'm missing someone else in that range who's going to be a popular play. But if you look at the fighters kind of below that, we'll go under 7.7. So after Donald Cerrone, I believe you have Ronda Marcos, who has a good shot at getting a win in this decision, but she's not going to score highly. She'll probably get 65, 70 points, and that might be on the high end. I mean, it's fine. You could be good in this slate because I don't anticipate a lot of underdogs winning. So it could be working out well, but still not a fighter I'm looking to target for GPPs because it's just not that upside. Then you have Alpar, who's facing Rose Clark. And I know Ryan's kind of high on Alpar because Alpar's way to win this fight is to get takedowns and grind you out in the mat. And which could happen. Jesse's been taken down before. But I'm not sure, for GPPs, she's going to score highly in a win. So not someone I want to target for GPP, more of a cash play. They save you some salary. Then you got Darren Stewart, 7,100. He might be able to grind us out. He's got some good wrestling. He might be able to take Holland down and just win rounds by just controlling him on the mat. Holland's never been knocked out. Stewart's never been knocked out. So this could be a fight that just a lot of it takes place on the mat, and it could be a grimy decision. And you never know how the judges are going to be, especially so just whoever's throwing more output or looking better, not showboating like Holland does. So Stewart's not a bad punt play. He could knock him out. He could submit Holland. I don't see it, but then you've got guys like Derek Minner, who I've talked about, who's very, he's going to get a submission in the first round or bust. He's a guy, in GPPs you might want to target. Gerald Meachard is another one. He's very going to either get a submission victory or he's going to get pounded out. Tyrone Woodley, he's a first or second round knockout, or he's going to get knocked out. If I was playing 100 lineups, I would probably have 5 to maybe 10 lineups of Woodley. I wouldn't have that much exposure to Woodley. I just don't see him that path. I would have more Gerald Meachard than I would have Tyrone Woodley. I can't think of the guy. I think his name's Grant, the one who Bektik's facing. I would have more of him out of any of those super low guys. Then he's a finisher. He gets most of his wins via fight or via finish. And Bektik is not a guy you could trust. Bektik's lost his last 2 fights. He hasn't looked overly impressive. So he would be like the absolute punt GPP play. I still wouldn't recommend it, but this slate as a whole, because of the way the pricing is, all the guys in that 9K range for the most part are guys you want to target, or you want to get those guys in that lower 8K range, like the Nico Prices and the blanking on his name, but the 8.3. So, or Johnny Walker, that's who I'm thinking of. Sorry, I'm just driving. There's some traffic. Just focusing on that for a second. But those are the guys you kind of want to target. You want to target the Nico Price fight. You want to target the Johnny Walker fight. Those are the kind of make or break fights that you want to target. Tyson Nam is, I don't know if you want to target that fight, but he's another guy you could pivot off of. I think the underdogs that are going to be popular again are probably going to be Spann, or maybe Walker, or probably going to be Spann's going to be popular. Donald Cerrone's going to be popular. So if you want to kind of get crazy with builds, maybe you take take Colby Covington, you take a Johnny Walker, you take Nico Price, and you put those guys in, and it fits up a Dvorak or Espinoza, and you kind of got that mid-range build that a lot of the other guys might not have, or throw in a TJ Laramie instead of Chimaev, or like we talked about Silva. There's a lot of different builds on the slate. It's going to be interesting. I think you're going to have Chimaev, you're going to have Colby, who are going to garnish the biggest ownership by a ton. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But after that, I think ownership is going to be fairly spread from the 7.7 to the 7 or the 8.5 range, or 8.6, somewhere in that range. Then it's going to be kind of a dead zone from Nam to Rose. I don't think there's going to be anybody super highly owned. I think Dern might get some more ownership just because of the name recognition. But again, I think that Bueno Silva, that 9K is kind of a sneaky play that could, end up being great. So you're going to get some of that salary relief because, that going from Chimaev at 9.4 to Silva at 9, I believe she's 9,000, saves you $400. You can get some of those guys in the mid range to spend up who have the high upside of GPP, and it's an overall, this is a card, the last few have been pretty, besides maybe the main event or main or co-main, haven't been very good. This main event, the whole main event, are very good fights. I'm looking forward to most of these fights. There's going to be, I think with the smaller octagon, there's going to be, again, more finishes than normal. But then, this is a fight. If you can do it, I would multi-enter this one. Spread out the ownership, get some there, but when you do your builds, try to have a core. I'm going to go with Covington, Chimaev, and this underdog, and then build around those. Oh, sorry, Randy Costa is another. That's why I was missing that fight. Sorry, guys. He's probably my favorite underdog of the slate, especially for GPP. He's facing Jeremy Newsom. And this is another fight. I knew I was forgetting one. This is a fight you want to target. I mean, Randy Costa comes out guns blazing. All of his wins typically are in the first round. If he doesn't finish in the first round, he pretty much gasses, and then he's going to get probably finished, or he's going to get beat up pretty badly for the next 2. I think, Randy Costa, I believe he's 78. He was the one guy I was missing. He's a guy in GPPs I want to target a lot. I'm probably going to be semi-overweight on him just because of his upside in GPPs. But Jeremy Newsom, on the other hand, I think he's 8,400. He's another guy you could probably you don't want exposure to, except he can avoid Costa in that first round. He's probably going to pick apart what's called Costa, or Newsom will pick apart Costa, and he could end up knocking him out. Or he's a brown belt jiu-jitsu, so he's got the ground skills. He could get the submission. So this is another fight you want to target. So there's that middle range. You can probably, if you can avoid it, the Dvorak Espinoza fight, and target all these other fights, whether it's Newsom, Costa, the Nico Price Cerrone, or Walker Spann. Those are the fights, after Chimaev and Colby, that you want to target for GPPs. You don't want to target that range for cash, that mid range, because there's just too unpredictability. Like, again, I would avoid this slate for cash as much as you can. Do it as GPP. But, man, we have some good cards coming up, guys. We have this fight next week. We got Adesanya versus Costa. Then, in a couple of weeks after that, then you got Khabib versus Gaethje, which could be firework. We finally got some good slates. They're really building up these cards, especially because of football season. They want to have the viewership on them. They want to get more people watching this. This week we got 100K prize, or to first place. You finally got some good prize pools back. You guys, if you haven't done so, make sure you guys subscribe to this channel if you can. I'm gonna, I put out Dana White Contender Series videos for those on Tuesdays. We don't have any more of that till November. I'm I'm trying to think of some other ideas to put out content on here, whether it's just strategy. I might do like a first thoughts thing when the pricing come out to see what initial looking at. It might be just quick videos, but I want to get some more content out for the subs and just in general to get some content out. Hoping to have, some other guests come on. Maybe I'll get Tyler back, get some other guys in the DFS community to come on and talk, whether it's breaking down slates or just talking MMA, get some other things. So if you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button on this video if you can, and get notifications, because that way it'll be great. I want to do some of these live. I want to have you guys come in, ask questions, throw your comments out, maybe even have you guys join the pod, talk. We can, I can add guests on these streams so we can talk fights or just talk whatever, shoot the shit. But I want to get more of you guys involved. I want to make this more of a community. You guys can come on and watch these things. Again, I'm going to apologize for probably the poor quality of video. It's in my Jeep and with the wind blowing. And with the audio and the internet. So again, if you guys have any question, Ryan's going to be in the war in there shortly. So again, wish you guys all the best of luck on this slate. Hopefully we take everything down. Good luck, guys.